Welcome to Love Sarah Kate. Tonight you're going to hear an original story that impacted us the most in 2019. So sit back and find your favorite story spot and let us tell you a story called The Guide. A family of deer begin their annual Christmas tradition of taking a trail walk during the first snow. Their fawn is so curious of this new world of white that covers the ground. The fawn giggles and runs left and right and everywhere as they walk further into the forest. As the family turns around a bend, the fawn looks over, thinking he spotted something shining in the bushes. But how could that be? The fawn continued to follow his parents and again looked up to see a bright, shining, glowing ball. Was it a star? The fawn smiled and hoped it would show again. And it did! More bright this time. This time, the fawn knew he had to follow this awesome light. So he followed it into the thicket, through the prickly bushes, and into the open field. The light danced in the field and created a magical moment for the little deer. The deer ran after the light and through more bushes. The deer kept running until he stopped right in front of a stump. At this moment, the little deer realized he was nowhere close to his parents, and he was deeper in the forest than he had ever been. What was the little deer going to do? The little deer was now alone in the dark, in the deep, dark forest. What would you do? The deer thought to himself, since the only way I'm going to get out of the forest is to follow the light. I mean, what better way when you're in the dark than to follow a light? So I'll keep following this little light that led me here. So the little deer kept following the light again, and this time it got brighter, and it showed in front of the fawn. The fawn decided to keep following the light and see where it led. He had to set off in the dark. What better way than to follow the light? The light led the little deer up a huge hill where the deer stumbled a bit and almost fell at one point. The deer questioned whether he had made the right choice following this light and whether he was up to the task of following it. The deer kept going because deep in his heart he trusted this mysterious light. And whether he was up to the task and following it or not, the deer kept following the light. And he believed it would lead him to an amazing spot. The light took him across streams and into valleys. The trek felt endless. And just as the little deer was ready to give up, he saw it. The little deer saw the light, and it danced in the sky and through the wintry wind and floated up and up and up until it burst into a million lights, and it covered a massive evergreen tree. The light sparkled and glimmered, and the darkness couldn't even be found for all the little lights that were glowing. He didn't even notice his parents over the hill running right toward him. But they knew this adventure was his to take, and they couldn't force him or just allow the deer to find the light because they said to follow it. This was the little deer's journey, his choice. The family of deer celebrated the light together, and the little deer was celebrated for his courage, his heart, and his trust in the light. This story is based on Jeremiah 29:11 through 13, where it talks about Jesus' pursuit of our hearts, that he loves us and pursues us. The light represents God, and how in my own life, I'm praying for my own children and people around me to find Jesus, to find the light. But it can't be forced upon someone. It is their moment, their choice to find hope. And the little deer reminds me so much of my kids, that I'm praying for their own journeys as they search for Jesus. And he's there with his arms open wide, ready to welcome them and you into his arms. I hope you enjoyed the guide, and I hope you join us again as we share more stories here at Love Sarah Kate.